Digital marketing seems to be the mystery that most entrepreneurs struggle with, and real estate investors are no exception. The truth is, there are multiple avenues to success. Those experiences will be best shared by the guests on this podcast. My name is Jason Wright, and I would like to welcome you to Real Estate Investor Marketing Stories. Hey, what's going on? Jason Wright here. Welcome to episode 11 of the show. This week, as usual, I've got an awesome guest. Before we get into that part of the show, I've got kind of a continuation for you from last week. Or I should say the last show. If you heard the last podcast, you will have heard a little bit of a teaser that I may have gotten stuck in an elevator at Best Ever Conference, which was last week. The day I'm recording this intro is March 13th, so last week, Best Ever Conference was in Salt Lake City. And on the very last day that I was there, so it ended Friday, this would have been Thursday night, I was on the 10th floor, that's where my room was at, and I was going down to the lobby. So lobby, first floor, and I went down floor 6, some people got off, then it went down to floor 2, 3 guys got on, and as soon as the doors closed, immediately the elevator went out of service and doors weren't opening, right? So pretty weird. It just kind of shut down right away. You felt the elevator kind of slowly drop like 6 inches, which is weird. And, the other 3 guys were in there with me. And it's always interesting in those scenarios. Immediately what I think of is, hey, you should focus on the things you can control because obviously you can't control this, right? And one of the guys I was with, I don't want to say he freaked out, but he was, trying to pull the doors open, and which obviously is not going to work, and trying to climb through a hatch in the top, and it's, not die hard. So that doesn't really exist, at least not that, we could see. So what can you do, right? You push the button, the alarm, try to make calls. Of course, being in an elevator, the reception for phones is really poor. So none of us really had a reception, and I was really, really calm, to be honest with you. This happened to me when I was pretty young. It was in the mid-1980s, so I was probably 4 or 5 years old. This was my dad somewhere around Indianapolis in the area, and we were in an industrial cage elevator that you could actually see through the sides and the bottom and the top, and we got stuck between floors. And as I recall it, we were stuck there a long time, like hours, 3, 4, 5 hours, something like that. And my dad was screaming for somebody, and he would take a break and keep doing it, And finally, very, very slowly, we were dropped or raised to the next floor and got out. But that was a long time ago. So this recent experience, modern elevator, I was really calm. So I was like, we're on, approximately the 2nd floor. So even if it started to slip down, it doesn't have to go that far. I wasn't too worried. What was interesting is the hotel was brand new. The phone to dial for help, it's locked in there. So you push a button and nobody would answer. Then finally somebody answered. It was so muffled that we couldn't even communicate with them. It was completely worthless. I ended up getting a little signal and calling my wife, and I said, hey, Carmen, I'm in an elevator. Call the front desk of the hotel and let them know we're stuck in this elevator. And she was like, what hotel are you in? And she was clearly preoccupied. I think she was driving or something. And she was like, I don't really have time to talk right now. And I don't know if she hung up or we got disconnected. But 20 minutes later, she texted me and she said, people are on the way. Other people had reached out. I reached out to another group of friends I was supposed to meet up with. Eventually they texted back. They didn't believe me. Everybody else kind of the same experience. And then all of a sudden, we started getting a hold of people. But the doors just popped open. It popped up on the 2nd floor. We all took a picture. They gave us bottled waters. And then I ended up getting a text. And the manager from the hotel a few days later said, we've given you so many points to come enjoy our hotels. I don't know what it's worth. I haven't even looked up to see, is it a night? Is it 2 nights? Is it a week? I have no idea. But anyways, kind of a funny experience. Makes for a good story. But it reminds you, we are not in control of much. We are not in control of much. And I feel like somebody needs to hear that. But for everything else that we're in control of, if you're unsatisfied with your business or your life, put in more effort. Do it more consistently. Take some chances and see what happens. All right. Anyways, Today, I am talking to another great guest. This week, it is Omar Khan. He's the managing director of Boardwalk Wealth. Really like the name of that company. Very cool guy. He's got excellent hair, as you'll see if you're watching the video portion of this on YouTube. He's got 10 years of real estate investment experience and all kinds of entrepreneurial experience as well. So I know you like this episode, so let's get into it. Hey, Omar, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Hey, thank you for having me, Jason. Very excited.
Awesome. So I do not know the answer to this question, so I can't wait to hear it. But tell me how you got started down this road of real estate investing.
Well, Jason, I love making money, and I hate paying taxes. Those were two commonalities that I think are very prevalent in the real estate world.
Yep.
Look, my family's been in real estate for a couple of generations. So growing up, and they're a business family, they're not real estate people. They just happen to own commercial real estate. So obviously that was one impetus, right? The other impetus was I was in finance, investment banking, portfolio management. So there's a technical know-how there, right? And then around the time I got married, I was like, okay, career-wise, it seems I was doing okay. I mean, I wasn't like not doing okay. I wasn't crushing it. I was doing fine, right?
Yeah.
My wife was doing fine. And we thought to ourselves, okay, what's the next step here? And luckily for me, I had good networks. I had good mentors growing, professionally and personally. So it wasn't like I was a guy with a problem. In this particular scenario, it so happened that I was a guy with a problem, but there were potential solutions that were a good fit for my personal and professional background. But, after that, it's all the same. Everybody's got to go through the same stuff about, putting your first deal together, getting your team, going through that little trough, the peaks and valleys that everybody goes through. But high level wise, man, I think I'm very lucky and I'm very grateful that when I compare myself to a lot of other people who are very successful, but who went through so much, like there is some like light bulb moment, right? That they had, boom, they're like, all right, we got to do this. I've never had it to date. Yep. It was just a series of very small steps over a period of time, yep, as opposed to some big leap of thinking. Yep. So it wasn't as sexy as somebody else's story.
Yeah, I love that, man. I've got a friend and a client that I look up to. I look up to him even though he's younger and shorter than me. Figure that out, right? But I always ask him, I say, hey, man, how did you get to where you're at? And he said, like you said, it's not a sexy story. There's never home runs, just lots of doubles and base hits with different ventures. And I was smart with money and made good decisions. But he said it wasn't a glamorous road at all. It's pretty boring, actually. So
yeah. I mean, I'm very grateful for where I am. Don't get me wrong. I'm very grateful, privileged, whatever you want to say it, lucky. But when I hear a lot of other people's stories, especially on YouTube and places, like, damn, these people have a really sexy story, right?
Yeah. Well, something else you said that's kind of me running with this, but I love it how you grew up in a family that exposed you to entrepreneurship and different things like that. I grew up in a family, very differently, where it was like, you go to school, you get a good job, and that's like the only path we know. So that's what we're going to tell you is the only path. And I'd always see like small businesses and go, well, what are these guys? What'd they go to school for? And I couldn't take my eye off of it. So in our house, I've got a 12-year-old daughter who's going on 25, and I've got a 17-year-old son going on 15. And I try to expose him to everything. Like, hey, Ethan, if you want to be an architect or an engineer, because that's how his mind is, you got to go to school for that. But if you want to start a business, you're not going to school for that because it doesn't make any sense. So that's
look, in my case, I don't think necessarily. Let's put it this way. It's not necessarily whether my parents or my family pushed me to this. Do you understand? It wasn't like they were like, oh, you got to go do this, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't like I was like, oh my God, I just got to go do this because it's a calling. And it was more on the fact of you see people and you see things around you. And, in your formative years, especially growing up, you say, okay, well, there's that thing also.
Yep.
So it is not say, it wasn't like necessarily they taught me in like a direct manner. Like, hey, I'll do this and then this will happen sort of deal. It's more through a process of osmosis and observation, which a lot of times you don't even realize you're observing. It's just around you. So you're just immersed in that environment without you necessarily actively thinking that you have to go do this thing.
That makes sense, but I do like the fact you're at least exposed to it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. But again, exposed to it in a not direct manner, in just like when you're in an environment and I believe when you're in a good environment in any scenario, whether it's sports even, right? If you're surrounding yourself with A+ players, even if you're a shitty player, your caliber just inches up. That's the reality of the situation, right?
Absolutely. So tell me, what asset classes and or markets do you typically focus on and why?
Well, first of all, short answer is anywhere I can go make money. Number one. Okay. The longer answer to that is anywhere I can sustainably go make money and scale. And the shorter answer to that is Sunbelt areas and basically more specific markets like I'm developing a lot in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, right? So it's Texas, Georgia, Florida, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Now, it's primarily multifamily, but I also have a restaurant business where it's just franchises. We don't own the real estate. We just have the operating company, right? So the point there is go to areas and markets where people are going, jobs are good, taxes are low, cost of living is affordable, right? Still, hopefully it stays like that, right? And that's it. And the whole idea there is, I have a very good background. Luckily enough, I'm a CFA charter holder. I worked in investment banking, so I have a really good background in investments. And a lot of time people think it's that you have to do intelligent things. Whereas in my experience, a lot of life is not doing dumb things. Like you don't necessarily, let's put it this way, above a certain level of intelligence, whatever that X number of intelligence, being more intelligent doesn't necessarily make you more money.
Yep.
Right? So it's more emotional and temperament management, right? You don't get itchy fingers, right? You don't start doing dumb stuff.
Yep.
As opposed to some brilliant leap, right? Like, hey, I invented, I don't know, like Elon Musk, like a rocket that goes to Mars or something.
Yep. So let me ask you, that all makes a lot of sense and I like it. Sioux Falls is on the east side of South Dakota, right near Iowa. Is that right?
No. It's a horrible. Let me just tell you exactly.
I've been to Rapid City and Sioux Falls, and I always forget which
I
one.
think Rapid City and Sioux Falls are a little further away.
They're on the opposite sides of the state. I'm trying.
So Sioux Falls is more near, yeah. Okay, so it's not near Iowa. Iowa's the other side, right? This is more near Nebraska and Minneapolis.
Got it.
Or yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, when you said it, I was like, there is no way it's there. I don't want to sound stupid, so that's why I had to look it up. Yeah.
I have no idea where it is. All right, let me ask you this, Omar. What simple marketing strategies and tactics have allowed you kind of to initially gain traction in getting new investors into your business?
Man, I honestly wish I knew the answer to that, because if I knew it, I would do it more and more. I think the simple thing basically is that the simple thing is just following up on your promises, man. You'd be surprised. I mean, I know everybody talks about some automation and some programming hack, and you do 3 programs and you link them together and boom, emails start coming out, right? But for me, it was just following through on my commitments. If I tell you I'm going to do something, sort of like an act of God happening, right? Yeah. I will follow through on my commitment. But that's a slow burn process.
Yep.
But your investors are more sticky with you then.
Yep.
And it's very slow and painful. And I wish I knew a faster way, because then I would do it and I'd be way richer.
I mean, what you're talking about is organic, just the face-to-face relationships, doing what you say you're going to do, deliver more than you promise. That's simple stuff, but it does work really well. You know what's crazy is I talk to people every day, and it's not even about marketing. It's just about like effort in business in general. Most people don't follow up on anything. So you talk to a new potential investor a month ago. What happened after that call? I got busy. I never talked to him again. What? I talked to other buddies with digital marketing agencies like me. Hey, what happens after the sales call if they don't buy? Nothing. What? Yeah. Like, are you kidding me? Just by adding a pipeline in our business, we doubled our revenue year over year. It's like we let marketing automation follow up so people don't forget about you.
Exactly.
Effort. So just making that effort, it goes a long way. So,
but again, it's, of course, I can just get better and better at it, right? Yeah. More follow-ups. But at least there has to be 1 or 2 follow-ups, right?
Yeah.
Minimum. I mean, come on. Let's go.
Well, we agree, like 0 is pretty weak.
I mean, 0 is guaranteed failure, right? Basically.
It is. Absolutely.
I mean, my point is, I don't know because obviously if you follow up too much, that might also piss off people after a certain time. There's some happy medium, but it's definitely not 0.
Yeah, the thing I always lean into is like the further out it becomes from the meeting, make the follow-ups less and less frequent, but still have it. Because people are like if you're shopping for like a car or a watch, like you're in that zone for like a week if you haven't made a purchase, but you get out like a few months, life is maybe taking you a different direction. So staying close to it and more aggressive up front makes sense. So let me ask you this. I'm going to throw you a little curveball here. You strike me as a guy that likes curveballs.
I do. I have struck you wrong. Jason.
What would you say the biggest mistake you've made in with your marketing is to this point?
Oh, everything, man. I look at a lot of other people that are more successful again, because you have to benchmark yourself, right? You only have to look at people that are more successful than you in certain areas to see, okay, wow, that person can be a role model. Like I can model myself over what they're doing. Yeah, dude, this is a question I'm trying to answer right now, actually. Basically, like what is the missing pieces or whatever it is, basically, and what can we do to put them in place in a sustainable manner? Because if it's just manual and brute force, that thing doesn't last too long.
Yeah.
Right. So what is it? And look, it could be a combination of online or offline ventures. Maybe I need to be out on more conferences. I don't know what it is, but this is something I'm actively every week. I am with my chief of staff. We're actually in the midst of talking about this for a long Slack thread, going for a long period of time, trying to figure out, okay, well, what's the next step? Because again, we have role models in front of us, right? Look, we're better in certain things, but there are other people better at certain things. Yeah. So I'm always a big believer that, hey, if somebody, even if you don't like them personally, if they're better at you than something, don't be insecure. Literally just copy them, man. What's the worst that could happen? And they're obviously good at it, right? I mean,
yeah. Man, what's funny about this question, maybe funny is the wrong thing, but kind of a reminder for me, because I've made a million mistakes too, but like at least mistakes remind you that you're trying something.
Yeah. Well, dude, we're trying. That was the point. That's why we're having these conversations. We're trying, but that key piece, right? Where sometimes you feel, okay, I put this thing in or these things in or this framework in, and at least for that moment in time till you hit your next plateau, you're dialed in, right? Yep. That particular aspect from the marketing angle, we're still trying to figure it out.
Yep. Got it. All right. So another curveball for you, since you've told me how much you like these, and this can be whatever you want, man. There's no rule to this. Are you willing to share a story about your real estate investing journey or your other business journeys? Because you're into some things that you haven't shared publicly. Could be something funny.
Oh, I'm a very public. Look, man, I'm very, very public. Most of my persona is very public. But look, like I told you, right? A lot of this, and again, I think I've been lucky that not real estate wide, but generally in life, I've had very good mentors. Yeah. Right? Just not like some guru online, right? Or somebody like that. Just people I know, professionally we work together, socially we know, family, friends, all of that sort of stuff. They're very successful. So you look up to these people. And very early on, I realized that consistency is more important than intensity. So I don't know if this is a big reveal, because I don't think it's a big reveal, because obviously I'm the first person that came up with this, but most, if not all of the successful people I know, and again, I'm very lucky to know lots of successful people in various lines of work, primarily through my family and now through my business, is that most of these people, like if you just meet them and you don't have the context of what they do, who they are, all of that sort of stuff, they wouldn't necessarily come across to you as either very rich, even though they're extremely loaded, right? Or terribly, like, conventionally intelligent. Like you go talk to somebody, you're like, oh my God, wow, what a great, like, thought leader, right? But these are all people that are just dialed in, right? They're focused, they're dialed in, but they have a way where they're dialed into their work, but they also have a way to turn the off switch.
Yeah.
Right? Because, like, a lot of times I'm sure you know a lot of these people that are so dialed into their work, then they don't really have a family life, right? Or they don't have a social life. And yeah, they might be rich, but what's the point of having money when you don't have a social life, you don't got a lot of friends, you're probably like, I don't know, your kids don't talk to you, your wife doesn't talk to you, you understand your only thing is your work. What's the point of that life?
Yeah. I get it. I agree with you. I equate this idea to lifting weights quite a bit. So this is week 2 back in the weights for me. I went to sleep last night with the joy of having spasms in my abs, which is not fun if you've never experienced that. But I reminded myself, I said the next 4 to 6 weeks will be hell, but after that point, I'll start feeling great, seeing great results, and every workout's not perfect. But if I'm consistent 3 times a week...
You just have to get there. You just have to get to the workout. It doesn't have to be good. You just have to get there.
Yep. And like you say, that consistency piece is so important. And even with marketing, people argue with me all the time, but I say content's important, consistency's more important. So even if like sometimes you're just talking about stuff that doesn't really apply, the fact that you're talking to people and they expected that and you showed up is a big deal. So it goes a long way.
And dude, it's also like a craft, right? Where you just have to do these screw ups for you to deliver your message in a 60-second soundbite, in a 30-second soundbite, in a 1.5-minute soundbite. It's a craft. And the only way you learn that craft is by just doing it.
Yep.
If you don't just do it, you don't just get out of bed ready for prime time, basically.
I hear you, man. You know what's funny? A little tip with like my videos and my sound stuff I do, I always do it in one take, no matter what. No matter what happens, we're doing it in one take, so we got to move on. So,
No, you could do the Bill O'Reilly thing. Okay, we'll just do it live.
Even better, even better. All right, let's pretend you are talking to somebody new who's wanting to get in the capital raising game. What would you suggest to them that they do in regards to their marketing getting started? What would you say, man? Do this thing when you get started, you'll thank me later. What would that be?
So this is something that I didn't do. So whatever. So because you learn from experience, I would suggest you pick your lane and you militantly stick to that lane for, say, the first 2 years or 3 years. I mean, it's like you put blinders on. So if you just want to be an equity partner, first of all, I won't really call yourself an equity raiser. Has a lot of legal stuff associated with it. So if you want to be an equity partner or some version of that, just dial that in, right? And everything that comes with it, the marketing, the going to events, the consistency of content, just do that. And if you can do that for 2 years, right, then you decide to do something else.
You think a lot of people try to go way too broad from the get-go?
Yeah. But the other flip side to this also is I'm also seeing people, I think people have read a lot of marketing books, so they're getting way too narrow. Like I was reading somebody saying, and I'm not picking on this guy at all. Hopefully he's successful. Like something along the lines of, I only deal with supply chain professionals in manufacturing. I was like, bro, like how many people are you going to, I mean, my friend, that's a pretty neat, I mean, I know you got to niche down, but that's going to be like, I am only going to talk to people in my neighborhood that are more than 6 feet tall. I mean, that you understand. I mean, there's niches. And then there's that, right? So don't niche down, but don't freaking niche down to where you only have 3 people in the world. Right? So gotta use common sense a little bit, right?
I think with niching down, when I talk to people for my digital marketing stuff, tell me about your business, try to figure out if they knew or if they've done this a while. When people say my target is anybody with money, I'm like, is that it?
That could also be the mob, by the way.
But it's another thing I've learned in my journey is you want to niche down, but sometimes you don't know your niche. So if you niche down a little and you're willing to pivot, if you see an opportunity that's still in line with what you're doing, that is a good piece of advice as well. Don't be so...
Look, you're always going to pivot, by the way. Whatever you do, you're going to pivot. So,
absolutely. Okay. So we are recording this in February 2023. As you look forward to the rest of this year, what are you most focused on as you continue to grow your business?
Well, we have a couple of developments coming out, but on the acquisition side, we have a distressed acquisition fund as well, basically, because we have our own operating team, and we're seeing a lot of deals in the market that are maybe decent deals, but they're not financed properly. They're not capitalized correctly. So we have a fund that takes care of that. Just one sec. So what we do with the fund is that we provide release either in the form of rescue capital. We can take over some of the GP interests as well, just to help people recapitalize deals, because nobody wants the deals to go back to the lender.
Gotcha. If anybody watching or listening wants to get more info on what you're doing or what you're into, how can they do so?
Well, you can join my mailing list by going to my website, boardwalkwealth.com. That's board, B-O-A-R-D, walk wealth. The form is right on the homepage. And if you join now, I'll also give you access to my free hidden mobile app. That has over 9 hours of free passive investing courses. Again, that's at boardwalkwealth.com.
Awesome. That is a great URL, by the way. So
thank you.
Cool, man. I really enjoyed having you on. This is a lot of fun, and appreciate your time.
No, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the show. I had a great time making it, and I hope you really enjoyed yourself listening to it. If you want to keep up with all things Real Estate Investor Marketing Stories podcast related, I encourage you strongly to go to reimarketingstories.com and signing up for our podcast newsletter. We will simply keep you up to date with what's going on at the show, new episodes, and things like that. reimarketingstories.com. So hopefully today's episode and the other episodes that you'll listen to will remind you that as a real estate investor, everybody starts at the beginning, okay? Our guest today and the other guests that you will hear on this show will share their real story, right? They'll tell you what worked, what didn't work. And I want you to remember one thing, if you remember nothing else today. It's possible for you too, okay? Never stop going and keep following your passion. Finally, today's show has been brought to you by capitalraisingautomations.com. If you're an active capital raiser and you are ready to learn the 3 areas that are holding you back from raising more capital, I strongly suggest you check out capitalraisingautomations.com. Check out our free 10-minute video there, and you let me know if it doesn't provide you value. I'm sure it will. All right, thanks again for listening to the show this week. Hope to see you next time. Take care.